Hi, this is Tamara Kelly from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I'm going to be demonstrating the stitch pattern that I used to create the Double the Love baby blanket. You'll find a link to the pattern in the video description if you're watching this on YouTube, or down below if you're watching it on the blog. You'll want to use the written pattern to actually make the blanket, but I'm just going to demonstrate the pattern of the stitches today. For this pattern, you'll need Lion Brand Yarn's Pound of Love in at least 2 colors, and stitch markers, and a K-hook. This one is by Furls. Let's get started. Okay, so this pattern works with a multiple of 5 plus 1 plus 1 more for the turning chain. The actual pattern for the blanket begins with a chain of 137, but for the sake of time of this demonstration, I'm just going to start with a chain of 17, which is a multiple of 3, 15 plus 1, 16 plus 1 more for the turning chain. So 17 chains total. So we begin row 1. What we're going to do is skip the first chain, the one closest to the hook, and then in the second chain, we are going to work a single crochet. Like so. Then we are going to work a chain of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we skip 4 chains and single crochet in the next chain. So let's come back down to our chains. You'll see I'm working in that back hump. This is just personal preference. If you like, you can work under the top 2 loops. But I just like to work in the back. I think it's a little bit easier. So once again, we're going to skip 4 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go to the chain after that to work our next single crochet. And then that is our basic repeat for this row. We chain 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let me pull on my yarn here. It's getting a little tight. The nice thing about Pound of Love is that it works pretty well as a center pull, but you've got to give it a little tug. So there we are. I've got my chain of 5 again. Got a little twisted. Let's get that untwisted. Don't want to start working to the other side of the chain or something. So my chain 5, skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Single crochet in the next. And we're just going to continue that all the way across the row. So chain 5, 4 and 5, skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that should put us in that last chain with our last single crochet of row 1. Now, as I said, this pattern is worked with 2 colors, and you're going to be working them both at the same time. But we're not going to finish this stitch with the next color or anything like that. Instead, we're going to keep this loop active, so to speak, but remove the hook and put a stitch marker in it. This is where our stitch markers come in handy to keep that loop secured so none of these stitches can come out while we work with the next color. So what we do at the end of this one, rather than turning, again, like we normally would with a pattern, we're going to put it down still in the same direction and pick up our next color. And we're going to use this for row 2. And we're going to be working into the unused loops of the foundation chain at the base of row 1. In the written pattern, you'll see there's a lot of photo tutorials for this too, or a lot of photos of the specific steps, so that's helpful as you work too. But so that means we're going to be working into these loops down here. Okay? So with color B, we're going to work with a join with a double crochet in the very first chain. So that chain was the base right there of that first single crochet we made. We put our double crochet right in the bottom of that stitch. So if you worked into the top 2 loops on the first row, you're going to be working into the back hump now. If you worked into the back hump like I did, you'll be working into those top 2 loops for this row. After you've made that double crochet, we skip the next chain and then we work a V-stitch in the next chain. A V-stitch for the purposes of this pattern is 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets in the same stitch. So let's yarn over, skip that next chain, go into the next one. Oop. Doesn't want to let me in there. There we go. We're in that chain. So we're going to make our V-stitch. Double crochet, double crochet, chain 1, and then 2 more double crochets all worked into that same chain. So this is a pretty big version of the V-stitch. V-stitch can mean lots of different things in crochet, but it usually means a double crochet with one or more chains in between it to make this nice V shape. So from there, we skip 4 chains, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That includes the one that stitch is worked into, and in the one after that, we'll work our next V-stitch. And that is our basic repeat for this one, skip 4 and V-stitch. And that'll work until we get almost to the end. So we'll probably have 2 more V-stitches to make here. Let me pull up some more yarn of the blue here. Doesn't want to come. There we go. And I know this seems like it might get a little messy, but you're really only working with 2 colors at a time for this pattern. So as long as you pay attention to your skeins as you work, they shouldn't get terribly tangled. I have a video on different ways to do color work without tangles. Well, one specific way actually that's my favorite that you might want to look up on the YouTube channel too. So we skip 4 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Work our last V-stitch for the row, which I know because we're almost at the end here. However many stitches you started with, if you started with the full 137, you'll obviously need to make a lot more of these V-stitches. So if you need to, feel free to pause the video here until you've gotten to the end of your row. A little more yarn here for the blue. 2 more double crochets to finish this V-stitch. And now, going back to our instructions, we should have 3 chains remaining. 1, 2, and 3, being the base that that last stitch is worked into there. So what we're going to do is skip these 2 right here, and then in this space we're going to work our last double crochet. And this sort of mirrors what we did at the beginning of the row. There we go. If we pull that apart, you can see I'm going right into that foundation chain of that first stitch there. Okay, so we're at the end of this row. So what I'm going to do is pull up that loop, remove my hook again, and use another stitch marker to secure this loop, and that will keep it safe. So these stitches can't come undone. All right, so that's what we've got. Oops, there goes my hook. There we go. So that's what we've got so far. Looks a little weird, right? Row 3 is going to be where these come together and start forming one cohesive fabric. So let's go ahead and get started with that. After we finish row 2, this is where we finally turn to work back this way. What we're going to do is insert our hook into the color A loop, which is this one right here. So let's remove that stitch marker and set it aside for the moment. Pick up your hook, insert it back into that active loop of chain 2, or of the first color. And what we want to do is insert the hook in a way that when we pull on the working yarn, the part that moves is in the front of the hook. That's always important when you reinsert your hook. So there we have it, and we're ready to start working row 3. What we're going to do is begin with a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, that counts as our first double crochet. Then we hold the work so that color B, B for blue, is behind color A. So what that means is we fold it. Let me put my hook down so I can show this a little better. We're going to fold it up so that the tops of the 2 rows meet each other and that the pink side, or color A side, is facing you, like so. Okay? Once again, we've got our active loops on our hook side, right side if you're right-handed, left side if you're left-handed, and fold color A up so that those chain loops are at the top of those V-stitches, okay? Now let me get my hook back in here so we can continue with row 3. Now what we're going to do is work another of those V-stitches, and where we're going to work it is under that chain 5 loop space and through the chain 1 in the middle of the V-stitch. Okay, so we're going to stick our hook under the chain and through the chain 1 space of the V, pull it up, and work our V-stitch. That encloses both of those chains, the chain 5 and the chain 1, inside the V-stitch. And again, the V-stitches are 2 double crochets followed by a chain 1 and 2 more double crochets. You can see, while this stitch pattern looks complicated, it's actually very simple. Or hopefully by the time we get to the end of this video, it will feel simple. And then we just kind of work across. We make a V-stitch in the next one. Skip all this in between, head over to the next loop, go under the loop and through that chain 1 space, and make your next V-stitch. And that's what we're going to do on across for row 3. And now I need some more pink yarn. The whole skein wants to come back on screen. There we go. Chain 1, finish the second half of that V-stitch, like so. And then move on down to the next chain 5 space, and I will literally just throw that chain 5 space right on top of the hook, then look for that chain 1, and then crochet them together like that, just enclosing them in the base of those V-stitch stitches. You can hear my stitch marker from color B tapping on the bottom of the table there. I know it's going to hold my color B stitches secure while I work with color A. So you really, I know some people think that working without stitch markers is living dangerously, and it is, but I like my crochet to stick. So we've got our V stitches at the end of row 3. We want to even it out, so we're going to double crochet in that last stitch. Give ourselves some nice edges for the blanket. So don't forget that part. It's going to be important to anchor the end of that row. There we go. Like so. And then from there, once again, we pull up our active loop. Place our marker, usually abbreviated PM in a pattern, around that loop. And that's row 3. Looking pretty cool. It's starting to come together. So what we do from here, we don't turn it again. We're going to go back to color B. And as you can see, this loop's now on the correct side to put our hook back in it. So I want to turn it around, make sure I get my hook back in there the correct direction, like so. And it's okay to sort of flip it over and open it up again so you can start working with that. What we're going to do is insert our hook in this loop. Sorry, I have to check the directions, so I'm just making sure I do this exactly right. Then we're going to chain 1. We're going to single crochet in the first stitch. We're going to work just into color B at this point, like so. Work our single crochet. Just hold color A to the front there out of the way. Okay, and then after our single crochet, we chain 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we single crochet in the space between the next 2 same color V stitches. Now in this row, when we make our chain 5 loops again, we're only going to be working to the same color stitches. So what we want to do, as you can see, if I flip it over here a little bit, there's our V stitches. Right now they're upside down in the blue. But if you take your fingers between the V stitches and pull that up, that's where we're going to work, our single crochet right there. So that's where we single crochet for that chain 5 loop. Then we chain 5 again. Let me pull up a little bit more yarn. There we are. I don't want to pull out too much. That's how you get tangles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Find the next space between the V stitches. There isn't a chain or anything there, but there's a space you can stick your finger through so you can put your hook through it. Single crochet again. Then we chain 5 one more time because I can tell we are at the end of our row. And to finish off row 4, what we're going to do is single crochet in that last stitch. So this is just like those chain 5 single crochet loops we did before. But the trick is now we've got another color and we need to make sure not to work into it on those. The chain 5 loops are only ever worked into the same color yarn. So that's the end of row 4. To begin row 5, we don't have to pull up our loop because we're going to continue right now with color B. But we are going to turn and work back the other way. Now, row 5 is where we bring the colors together again. So we're going to start with our chain 3, 2, 3, which counts as our first double crochet here. Then I'm going to work a V-stitch in this chain 5 loop we just made and bringing it up again, the V-stitch right behind it in the other color, like so, right in that chain 1 space again. So I hope you're starting to see how this repeat works. You're going to have a row of chain 5s and single crochets, followed by, and those are worked into just the same color, and then you'll have a row of V-stitches where the colors are joined together. So there's our first V-stitch, like so. Come on, yarn. Sometimes it needs a pep talk. There we go. And you can see it's joined them together, and now the pink is showing nicely behind the blue. So let's continue on across. We do our next V-stitch, we go under that chain 5 and through the chain 1, make a V-stitch, chain 1, a little bit more blue yarn for this row here. There we are. And then one more to join our last two together here. Just make sure you always go under both of those loops, or through both those loops, however you want to describe it, through both those chain spaces, so you can join your two colors together and they peek through each other quite nicely. So, so close. 2 more stitches for this row and I need more yarn. There we go. One more, and then our double crochet, remember, to finish off the end of the row and balance that chain 3 we did at the beginning. And now we are ready to put our stitch marker in this one. Now, we've already done the 2 basic rows of the repeat. What you're going to be repeating is rows 4 and 5. You're just switching colors every time. So let's work those one more time just so you can see how it's done. We're going to come back over here. Now we've got this color waiting on our hook side. So we'll pull on that so we can figure out just where that loop is. There we are. Insert our hook correctly. And then to begin this row, we start with a chain 1. And remember, this is going to be our chain 5 loops, so we're only working into the pink. Since we're working with pink, we only work into the pink. When we're working with our chain 5 loops with the blue, we only work into the blue. So we chain 1, single crochet in that first stitch, chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm going to need to pull up some more pink yarn. Oops, I keep yarning over. These are single crochets. We find between those 2 V-stitches, flip it over if you have to. Even though they're upside down, you can see one V-stitch is here, the other one's here. So right here is where we want to put that single crochet. Like so. Then we chain 5 again. 2, 3, 4, 5. Single crochet in the next space between V-stitches, and then chain 5 and single crochet in the last stitch. Did I lose count there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope, I got it. All right, so we single crochet in the top of that chain 3, since that counts as our first stitch of the row. And then from here, remember, after our chain 5 rows, we don't have to pull up our loop. This is where we turn, like so. We chain 3 again, 1, 2, 3, and we work with a little bit more yarn, or a lot, our V-stitch rows. So we'll yarn over, go under the chain 5 loop, and into that chain 1 space behind it, and join them together again. There's 2, chain 1, and 3, and 4, and we've got our first V-stitch of this row. So we'll continue working on across. And this pattern, I don't know of a specific name for this stitch pattern. It may have one, I haven't been able to find it. But it's an example of something that's often referred to as intermeshing crochet, or even interlocking crochet. I believe there's a book with that title. So if you enjoy this sort of pattern, that's something to look up. It can give some really neat effects, working into the yarn differently like this. Some people have very different ideas about what intermeshing or interlocking are. Some terms have been copyrighted, so that's something to keep in mind too. But it's a good place to go if you really enjoy patterns that work like this as well. And I have a few on Moogly as well, particularly the Moroccan tote and the Moroccan blanket and things like that. So we've got our row 5 repeat here, done with the pink. So remember, after our V-stitch row, that's where we pull up our loop and reinsert our hook. And then we'd begin again with color B, in this case for blue, which is waiting again on our hook side. We'd work our chain 5 loops right behind the pink, and then we'd turn and work our next set of V-stitches. So let me set this aside and I'll pull up the finished blanket and you can get a better idea of how this looks a little bit larger. Okay, for the swatch we just made, we used pink and blue as the colors that played off each other, and you can see that's what one side looks like, and that's what the other side looks like. For the Double the Love baby blanket, I made one side all in white and then switched between pink and blue to create stripes on the other side. So this is what it looks like from one side of the blanket. And there's the other side. You can see the white really stars on that side, and the pink and the blue are what's peeking through. Whereas on the other side, the white's just peeking throughout. So That's how you make the Double the Love baby blanket. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and have fun with this stitch on your own. See what you can make with it. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please tell your friends and do subscribe to our channel.